compartmentalised systems in the area of politics, social engineering, monarchy, science, industry, banking, war, religion, commerce, fraternal orders. All these top rich families are all control all these areas. And then we're thinking, oh, democracy, we're all voting in these little politicians and so, it's all fun and games, but it's the situation that we're in. Hierarchical, less people at the top, more at the bottom. Orders come from the few at the top to the bottom. Standard pyramid shape, just like any corporation, any bank, any military. That's what you got. Compartmentalized. Go talk to anyone who's in the military, CIA will tell you about it. Compartmentalized is like every section doesn't know what's going on in the other section. It's broken down so you can keep information locked and sealed so it doesn't get out. Prime example of that is the Manhattan Project. We had over 100,000 people working back in the late 1930s towards making the atomic weapon for America. 100,000 people working on it, and it was in this compartmentalized system. The military talk about it, love talking about it over there. And that's how the information didn't get out. So it's quite easy to do all these things. You got all these families, Rothschild families, and these people who don't contribute to society, but live in billion-pound mansions and have loads of fun. And they don't contribute to anything, but they control all the banking systems and all corporations. The media won't talk about it, but if you look into it, you can see all this. It's quite easy to see for me to see. Here's a quote from one of them. Give me control of the nation's money and I care not who make her laws. What does that tell you about his mentality? He's not there to give out tellies to kids or food or anything. He's just telling you straight up what he's about. Rockefeller family, there's loads of these aristocratic, big banking families. They're another family in America who came to power with Standard Oil, controlled all massive oil resources around the world, backbone of the central banking system in America, the Federal Reserve, based in New York. They set up the Rockefeller Foundation, which, going of academic history, that they trained up a lot of people, the Rockefeller Foundation, all sorts of academics and stuff to go out into other universities and stuff, and in terms of medicine, and to push their policies. And this is academic history. You can't talk about it. It doesn't matter if you got documents proving that. You're not allowed to talk about it. The elite bloodline chosen by God. All these aristocratic people, who are they? What do they do? All living in billion-pound mansions, not contributing to anything. And they're all blood related to all these other people. What's going on here? They never skip the meal. There's hundreds of other groups. People look into this, I'm sure most people have. But it's very interesting. So here's the rule I came up with, the multi-billion-pound mansion rule. People who live in multi-billion-pound mansions network with other people who live in multi-billion-pound mansions. Now, I'm not talking about Bill Gates, I'm not talking about Oprah Winfrey, I'm not talking about Alan Sugar or these people. I'm talking about the people way at the top in multi-billion-pound mansions who, if they woke up and had Alan Sugar's money, they jump out a window. There's a whole other setup going on that we can't even comprehend. They don't even know what money is, they've never even touched it. They look out the window and see cattle walking around when they see people. And they form business relationships with other people in multi-billion-pound mansions. It's all about banking control. Central banking system, talk about that. Private banks loan money to all the national banks, or all the national central bank in each country, which is a private corporation, just like Tesco or something like that, loan money to the government. Government has given up their right to create their own money, not at debt, and they loan money from this corporation. And then because the government doesn't have the ability to make money, how's it going to be paying back this interest on this loan that's after taking? So it's to take and refinance a loan and get another loan to cover this, and this keeps going on. You have perpetual debt, exponentially growing debt. Any system that's based on exponential growth is doomed to fail. This is what goes on. Fractional reserve banking, this is the system where money supply can be expanded in commercial banks based on fractional reserve ratio, create money out of nothing at the expense of inflation. You can look all this up yourself, I know most people might have heard of whatever. Bank for International Settlements, this is loads of fun. This is this group based in Basel, Switzerland. I'll talk about it later. Actually, I'll talk about it later at the same time. World Bank International Monetary Fund. World Bank is an international bank based in America that loans money to all the third world countries, puts them in more debt. And then you go, oh, what? They can't pay back the loans? Oh, do you know what? We'll check this out. They take all your resources. That's what they do. This is what's going on. Everyone's scratching their heads wondering why all these African and Asian countries are in debt, giving up all the resources. This is why. International Monetary Fund, that's the European version of it, owned by all the European central banks. create money in a thin air and loan it. So who owns all these central banks? Well, in most cases, population are not allowed to know. It's completely private who owns them. It's ridiculous. Some people do. In America, people reckon it's like, oh, it's actually the commercial banks that own the central bank that create money in a thin air that loan it to the government. It's ridiculous. It's just
that man's family who said if he could control the money,
yeah,
he didn't care who made the laws.
Yeah, this is
they're
it.
the ones that have
the
Bank of England.
Violate so many ideas of physics and maths and conservation of energy and all. It's just it's mind-boggling. This is what goes on. Examples of powers of government. We've got the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London, Council of Foreign Relations in the US. Both these groups contain all the top politicians in that country, all the top academics, all the top bankers. Contains international bankers, all the local think tanks, all the local people who own all the mainstream media. All these people meet up behind closed doors in the chat. They meet up and they form policy, and they operate a thing called Chatham House rule, where they're not allowed to discuss to the population what they're talking about. And then you have the mainstream media, don't even question it. No, we're not even going to ask why all these rich people are meeting up behind closed doors and not talking about it.
Because they own the media.
They own
the newspaper.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And they wouldn't pay tuppence for a newspaper, they mind a pound.
Completely. And then openly tell you this is what's going on. And then no one wants to ask you questions about it. And if you ask a question about it, there's something wrong with you. What's wrong with you asking questions about rich people meeting up behind closed doors who own it?
And there's about 7,000 quangos in this country as well.
Completely.
All sticking their oar into this, that and the other,
yeah.
without our permission,
Completely. You got the Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, Triennial Commission, people look into all that. These are all these international groups. You have international people, equivalent to the Royal Institution, Council of Foreign Relations and Royal Institute of International Affairs. These are more international or continental based groups that control and have this hierarchical structure where it all flows down, powers control. Fabian Society, Rockefeller Foundation, loads more. People can look these up. What do you guys do? I'm not telling you. Alright. Well, we've all rich members. Having loads of fun.
What they do.
The Fabian Society, they almost tell you with the emblem, aren't they?
Fabian Society, Tony Blair, and all the top leaders.
Edward Heath, the great conservative man, was in that Marxist society. That's where he was trained and brought up.
Get out your maths book and go through probability of membership of these clubs. That's tell you what it's about. You work out, it's astronomical, but it happens. And people just reject it. It's ridiculous. Royal Institute of International Affairs in St James's Square in London, when I was down there, took pictures of it. There is Chatham House. Bank for International Settlements. This is like the international central bank for all the richest central banks. The 53 richest countries. We have UK, Iraq, Iran, Israel, China, Egypt, Hungary. All the top guys have it all up for themselves. And all these people, all these countries have their economic policy, their central banking policy controlled from here. They tell you that, they admit to you. And in Basel, Switzerland, the Swiss police have no jurisdiction to go into the building whatsoever. It's untouchable to them. All these top central bankers meet up all the time. What are they doing? They're not to know. Media won't talk about it. And the same Bank of International Settlements turns out, academic history, loan money to Hitler and all these other guys. What's going on? No one wants to ask questions about it. Absolutely crazy. Here's a map of the Bank for International Settlements member. All the red places are the countries which are members of, 53 richest countries. All the poorer countries in white, some of Asia, most of Africa, some of South America. All these countries have national central banks, which the government loans money off, but they also prop them up with World Bank, International Monetary Fund. It's fascinating. Free trade agreements. This is what's going on, centralised power, centralised economic and political power into one central point, as you have in the EU, African Union, North American Union. This goes on, it's gone everywhere. Who's controlling it, who's behind it, who's funding it? The top rich international bankers, all the top guys in all the corporations, the big rich families. No one wants to talk about it or ask questions. They just look, any country in Europe now, 80% of all the law, statute laws that come from the EU Parliament. Run around think everyone's sovereign and we've got our own country. No, you haven't. They're telling you what to do. And you just copy and paste law and put it down. So you're no longer independent whatsoever.
Do you know who gives the law to?
Sorry?
Do you know who